Very honored guest, Mr. Donald J. Trump, who's running for the presidency of the United States in the Republican Party. Mr. Trump, just on the back of the envelope, the combat time of the United States in World War I, World War II, the Civil War, and the American Revolution adds up, I think, to less than 15 years. We are 15 years into this phase of this war against radical Islam, and we have the second bloodiest day in that war over the weekend. And the President of the United States and your opponent refuse to call the enemy who and what they are. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a disgrace. I watched yesterday. I was with a group of a lot of people watching the set, and we were watching Obama's speech, and people started booing toward the end because they realized he again was not going to mention the term radical Islamic terrorism. And it's just not in him, and perhaps you'll explain to everybody why, because there's lots of different reasons, I guess, but no reason that I would understand or that you would understand. There's something going on there that is very, very strange, why he doesn't want to use that term. It can't be any more obvious. It can't be more obvious what's happening. All you have to do is take a look at what's happening. But for whatever reason, Steve, he won't use the term, and people are angry about it. If for no other reason, just to build up the spirit in our country, he's got to use that term.
You called yesterday for him to resign in disgrace. Do you still stick by that today? Was that just something that...
Well, look, I think he's a horrible president. I think he's been a disaster. I think the fight on terrorism is an example of it. He's been an absolute disaster. We don't fight to win. We fight to... I think we fight politically correct wars. I mean, I've even heard they don't bomb the oil because they don't want to pollute the atmosphere. I've heard things like that. Now, sometimes I think, no, you must be kidding. Can you imagine General Patton hearing these conversations? He's spinning in his grave. But you know for a fact they tell people get out of the truck, because they're taking oil, and they're taking oil and paying for oil, and that's helping ISIS. And if you remember, Steve, I said take the oil, keep the oil. And that was for a long time. That was before ISIS got it. And now if you look at Libya, Libya's got that oil. I mean, the Libyan oil, which is a great oil. It's a very, very pure oil, one of the best on earth. And ISIS has the Libyan oil, too. And they're freely trading it. It's going out to port. We're not doing blockades. We're not doing bombings. We're not doing anything. Steve, we have a president that doesn't have a clue. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Is his third term now? He's thrown in with Hillary Clinton. By the way, let's leave her corruption and her, how she made her money and her husband made her money. That's for another day because we've got this topic because of this Orlando situation. But what she really holds herself out to be is a geostrategist, a great world leader. Do you see over the weekend? She would not say radical Islam. Do you believe that she can really stand up under scrutiny, what her track record is?
I don't think she can. I think she's very weak. I think she is a person that doesn't have what it takes. If you look at the Secret Service person who wrote the book about her, he really calls her a basket case. She's a mess. And this is not presidential, and this is not a president. And she's also very weak on the subject, and she, at some point, I'm sure she'll be forced to use the term radical Islam or radical Islamic terrorism, but at some point she has to be. I mean, if she doesn't use the term. So at some point she'll be forced to use it. But I guess right now she's sticking with the president because she doesn't want to go to jail. He's the one keeping her out of jail. So he's got a lot of power over her.
If you look at Boston, in Fort Hood, in Chattanooga, in San Bernardino, in the Garland assassination attempt on Pamela Geller that came out of Phoenix and now Orlando, you see that ISIS has brought the war to Main Street America. What would you, as Commander-in-Chief, do to combat the problem we have here now that's not in Mosul, that's not in Raqqa, that's not in Afghanistan, but a radical form of this religion is here. They're turning young people into assassins. What would you do in your administration that's different than President Obama?
Well, the first thing I'd do is stop more people from coming in, Steve. They're pouring in by the thousands from Syria, and we have no idea who they are. There's no paperwork. There's no nothing. We have absolutely no idea. And, I mean, honestly, you're going to see problems in the future that are going to make this look like small potatoes. It is unbelievable what they're doing. The hatred, the level of hatred in there. So I would stop that immediately. It has something to do with your question, too, believe me. But we need better intelligence gathering information, and if we don't get it fast, We're going to be in trouble. We have to watch. And you have to understand that people in the community, Muslims, they live in a community of Muslims. They don't report these people. They know the people. If you look at San Bernardino, they knew that those people were off. They knew that they saw it. They had bombs all over the floor of their apartment. I mean, this isn't exactly a typical thing. There were bombs all over the apartment. Many people saw that apartment. Many people saw those bombs. They don't call to talk about it. They don't call in to say, get over here and inspect this apartment. There's something going on. You will find that with this maniac, I don't even mention his name. I don't want to. I'll never mention his name. But you'll find with this maniac that many people in the community knew that he was off, that he was going to explode, and they don't report him. So we need much better intelligence gathering information.
Do you think that's because of political? Do you think that's because
Steve? I think this is the beginning of a lot of bad stuff going to happen.
Do you think that's because of political correctness, that even when you mention some of these little common sense things, you're deemed a nativist and a racist and a homophobe and a Islamophobe, and that's by the Republican establishment? Romney's government in exile that met in Park City this week, the party of Davos out there, they mock and ridicule you on every time you bring up these kind of logical solutions. It's the Republican establishment with Paul Ryan and Mitt Romney. Are they not just as bad as Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama?
Well, I'm having more difficulty, frankly, with look. The Republican Party has largely come together, and they agree with me, and they believe in me, and I get more votes than anybody in the history of primary elections. Okay, nobody's ever even gotten close, the Republicans, and I got more than Ronald Reagan, I got more than Richard Nixon, more than Dwight Eisenhower, I got more than anybody, and so they understand that what's going on. But I have to say that. The Republicans better get smart. They better start sticking together. Romney's a loser. He lost the election badly. He should have won that election. That election was easier than this election. He should have won that election. He choked. He was a choker. And I was very tough on him at the beginning because we don't want to give a choker. I backed him, but we don't want to give a choker a second chance because we can't afford to. And he wasn't going to win anyway. He would have choked the same way. Whatever happened, he was way off. He lost by a lot. And now he goes around having meetings about Donald Trump. I mean, he ought to go into retirement and relax because he's wasting a lot of people's time.
Is it not pretty obvious?
And then something like this happens. Now they stop talking. As soon as this happens, they immediately stop talking about me and my views because they say, wow, maybe Trump is right. But I am right, and I don't think my views are very different from your views, Steve. We have to get very tough and very strong and very vigilant, and otherwise we're not going to have a country left.
Do you believe that Mitt Romney would rather see Hillary Clinton as president of the United States rather than Donald Trump?
I do. I think so. He's a jealous guy. He's got a lot of problems. I watched his statement over the weekend, and it was sort of sad and pathetic at the same time. It was pathetic, but it was sad too to watch him. There's no reason for him to do this. Yeah, he'd rather have, even though I'm going to appoint great judges. We can have as many as 5 judges, and she's going to appoint super radical liberals, and I'm appointing. You saw the 11 names I gave, and we're going to have great judges, conservative, all picked by Federalist Society, and I mean, to me, incredible that they would have this. And part of the thing is they didn't get it. They didn't get it themselves. And he probably still feels guilty that he lost the last election. That was an election. He was running against a failed president. Steve, that was an election that he should have won so easy.
Last question. We only got a couple of minutes. But Hillary Clinton, she said she was dead broke when she left the White House. AP reports they're worth, $200 million today. They didn't take a company public. They didn't do a leverage recap. They didn't sell a company. Are you going to hold her accountable for how she and her husband actually made that money?
I will. I will be doing it. The movie came out and the book was great in terms of a lot of the things that they had to do to get that money, and that will be certainly one of a lot of subjects that are going to be talked about, and that'll be up front. And the Secret Service agent saying she's a basket case. She's not equipped to be president, and she's not. I understand that she's not equipped to be president, and you have more of Obama, but I think even worse in a certain sense. So we'll see what happens. We're in there fighting. We're doing well. The polls are looking pretty good. Pennsylvania just came out. That's really looking good in Florida. And we're going to be in there fighting, unlike Romney, who gave up. I mean, he gave up at the end of the last month. You didn't even see him. And one thing I tell you, Steve, I don't give up. We're going to win.
Mr. Trump, thank you very much for joining us on Breitbart News Daily.
Thank you very much, Steve.